Serious people who have survived a murder attempt by dumb luck. What's your story? My sister had this one friend when we were growing up. I always got a bad vibe from Monsieur. She would try to pick on my little brother, but I would always stop her. I was 8. She was 10. Once we were at a lake and all the kids were swimming. I swam out to the deep roped-off part, but I was still little and really shouldn't have. She kept acting weird and getting closer to me, making this weird laugh. She pushed me off the wooden pole in the water and I got scared and started to swim back, but she came up behind me and pushed me under the water. It didn't click at first that she was trying to drown me, but after she aggressively pushed me under. The third time I had this crazy moment of clarity. It was like the world slowed down ever so briefly. I relaxed and let myself sink, swam underneath her, and came up behind her. I grabbed her hair and shoved her face into the water, keeping my legs on her back so her body couldn't rise. I waited until her struggling slowed down and let her come up. I waited in the water saying nothing, bracing myself for her retaliation, but she just looked panicked and swam back to shore. I told my sister, who had already expressed that the girl was weird. We confronted her together and she just looked really dazed. In a monotone voice she said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know it would be like that." It wasn't until I replayed those words in my mind later that I realized what she was saying was, "Sorry, I tried to drown you." It wasn't until I was almost drowned myself that I realized how horrible it is to do to someone. You might have taught her empathy that day with your self-defense tactic. You might have saved someone's future life and kept her out of prison. Thank you for the silver. Serious. 3 men drugged me and kidnapped me. I woke up on a floor with one of them tearing my clothes off and my moon boot. Broken foot. I tried kicking him off with a boot, but he started knocking my head into the floor and I passed out. I woke up in daylight in a garbage bin, naked and in a pool of my own blood. I don't know how the fuck I got out of there or how I found the nearest policeman, but I then collapsed again. Woke up in a hospital with 52 stitches in my head and 78 in and around my vulva and breasts. Doctor said it was the worst rape trauma she ever saw. They say it's a miracle I'm alive and don't know how I did it. They were never caught. I am a crisis, trauma and PTSD counselor now. They didn't win. Edit. Shit. I never thought I'd get a response like this. I woke up and thought my Reddit notifications was on crack. Geez guys. Thank you so fucking much for the compliments and support. It's a bit overwhelming tbh and I don't know what to say except thank you. You guys are amazing. Also, thanks for all the bling. That really wasn't necessary but so cool. Thanks. To clear up, I am a woman and I am married and I posted in our animals being derps a pic of my husband and dog, and doggo speak is encouraged, so the dad was referring to my husband. Lastly, to the people who say I'm lying or looking for attention, suck my metaphorical balls. Edit 2. Thank you once again. Hope you guys don't mind, but I printed the thread with all the amazing messages and I've added to my notice board. Greater than I am a crisis, trauma and PTSD counselor now. They didn't win. Holy shit. Almost left me speechless. You are an incredible person. I was exiting a bar once after last call and was with a friend who was a medic. We saw a girl laying in a snowbank near a telephone pole who had just been hit by a car. We ran over and tried to help her. Some others were already on the phone with 911 and I, not having any medical training, didn't have anything to contribute but didn't want to just leave. The whole situation was concerning. I turn around for a second and start to hear people screaming. I turn around, a minivan was heading for us. The few people around this woman, they already started to run, but I was too late. He hit me as I was trying to flee, put the car in reverse, ran over me again, and then went forward and run over me a third time. Turns out the guy was high and drunk and got into a fight with a women's BF, whom I bared a strong resemblance to. He thought I was high, monsieur, not to throw a pity party for myself, but 9 years later I have a ton of medical issues, and my life pretty much started on a downward spiral since then. But sure, I guess I survived. **edit. For everyone wondering about the guy, an off-duty cop watched the whole thing go down, and copied his license plate number. He was apprehended 20 minutes later and charged with attempted murder, along with many other things. He pleaded out to just 3 years in jail. He had actually killed someone else a few years before drunk driving. How they thought that was appropriate is beyond me. Man, I'm really sorry that happened to you. Hope you're doing better now. Thanks, man. Not really. And as I get older, I'm 33 now, I'm assuming everything is just going to get worse. I do realize how doom and gloomy that sounds though. Just a real concern I have. My husband and I live above our place of business. An alarm company called us at 3 a.m. to say there was a motion detect alert. Just one. In a weird place. We assumed it was a mouse but went to reset check it out. Husband ended up face to face with a burglar who was on his way out the window he had broken. He ran back inside. I called 911 and we heard mad chaos going on in the depths of the building. So much crashing and smashing. Burglar monkey climbed a 10-foot iron gate, bodily smashed through 2 sets of commercial-grade glass doors and was outside again. My husband was like, yeah, fuck this dude. Tore after him and tackled hi monsieur. He got him on the ground and pinned hi monsieur. Bear in mind the whole time I'm narrating to 911 and chasing around in panties and tank top. I was a bit behind my husband, in the middle of the street about 15 feet away when a minivan squealed around the corner. It was his GF getaway driver. I luckily missed it. I was super focused on reading the license plate, which was one of those cutesy font out-of-state ones and therefore hard to read, but she yelled, "Get the fuck off him or I'm running your bitch over." Quote. Then she tried to. The audio and video I had to watch for the trial was horrifying. I had blocked it out nearly completely, and really didn't remember how close it was. She guns the engine at me. I throw my hands up in front of my face when I realize what she's doing and scream, and jump out of the way with inches to spare. He jumped in and off they went. He bled all over my husband. Yikes. And eventually the DNA and the partial plate info nailed them. Monsieur, they're both in prison. Addendum. Trial suck. ETA. To make this clear, do not do this. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug and it's best to not fight burglars. We definitely both could have died. It was the 3rd time this fucker had broken in and caused $XXXXX amount of mostly uninsured damage and inventory loss, and that definitely contributed to the whole thing. He wouldn't have stopped doing it. He was a pro and was doing upwards of 3 jobs a night most nights. All over the state. For years. Greater than. Bear in mind the whole time I'm narrating to 911. And chasing around in panties and tank top. And this, my friends, is why I never sleep naked. It's why I sleep naked. No one wants to rest day with a rude new dude, and no amount of jail time will wipe that emotional trauma. EFFs. I just ended the last EP of Got Trash, and I have 67 messages. Scared the piss out of me. I was riding in a train across Eastern Europe. I was running low on money, and even though I had been warned that a woman should not travel alone in second-class seating, I did not spring for first class. I was sitting alone in one of the compartments that seat 6. This was also a mistake and a very stupid one, to sit alone. Eventually the train stopped and a man got on. He was very drunk. He came into my compartment and I guess thought I looked like his ex-wife. He attacked me. If it were not for the fact that this particular station was the border between 2 countries, I would be dead. Instead, border patrol from both countries were on the train, and while I was unable to scream, the door was open and at least a half a dozen uniformed men jumped him and saved me. I was in the hospital for a little while but recovered. At one point during the trial, one of the cops asked me if I wanted him and his buddies to hold the guy down while I hit. Hi monsieur, I thought he was joking. So I said no. Go ahead, you do it. I was also joking, but it turns out they took it seriously and were about to. I did put a stop to that, at least, but they were so offended that someone from their country would attack a young female American tourist. They were furious with hi monsieur, so many people there depended upon tourism greater than, but it turns out they took it seriously and were about to. I grew up in Ukraine. That guy probably got beat up later, lol. No doubt, he got his ass kicked as soon as the trial was over. My supposed best friend decided that my wife and I were too perfect. Therefore it must all be an act, and I was obviously abusing her. He was at our house after I made an awesome dinner and we were having fun drinking and singing karaoke. I went to the kitchen to put some glasses away. Came back and leaned on the couch with him slightly behind me to the left of me. Then I heard a thunk and felt an amazing amount of pain on the top of my head. He had picked up the whiskey bottle on the table and smashed it into my skull. I was very confused as to WTF was happening. Then the blood started pouring. I didn't want to get blood everywhere, so I went to the kitchen. Dude is pacing back and forth saying weird shit. I thought about my gun, which was close by, but I wasn't thinking quite straight. He left. I had a huge concussion and still suffer side effects from it. My number 2 goal in life is to live longer than that ass had, just so I can shit on his grave. What happened with him? Is he in jail? Absolutely nothing. The legal system let me down big time. They called him and asked what happened, and that was all. They wouldn't even grant me a restraining order. WTF, what country are you in that they don't do anything about this? Well, my mom got mad at me when I was 20 and I didn't give her money for her birthday, which I'm assuming was to pay off drug dealers of hers. So she stabbed me between the ribs. Ended up getting stuck in the bone and had to get it taken out in surgery. Did you post this on our entitled Parents a while back? Because I remember seeing a story like this. Throwaway because it got some media. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I was representing this guy that had embezzled almost $500,000 from his business partner. He was looking down the barrel at several years in prison. A bunch of his assets had been seized by the government. Was being sued by multiple creditors for north of $2 million. And was in the midst of an ugly divorce and wasn't allowed to see his kids. I was one of 3 lawyers he had: criminal, civil and divorce. He was drinking a lot and using coke. I used to get this incoherent phone calls in the middle of the night that ranged from threats to crying. He came to my office one day and asked for me, but I was in court. My secretary said he was perfectly civil. He then went to his divorce lawyer's office and shot him to death. Got stopped by the police a short distance away and was wounded in a shootout. He would later tell the cops that he had come to my office to shoot me that day and also planned to shoot his civil attorney. Why? You were presumably hired on to defend him, so why did he even do that? So confusing. He was not in a rational state of mind. People sometimes have the tendency to blame their lawyers when the situation isn't going to get resolved how they like. I know 2 other attorneys who have been assaulted or threatened with weapons by clients. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.